Welcome to the farm, readers. So, today our classroom is turning into a storybook farmyard where we will learn reading and writing skills using animals, barns, crops, and country adventures. Just like farmers grow crops, readers grow their reading skills and writing skills every day. So, let's explore how stories work while we spend a day on the farm. And just so you know, you're more than welcome to pause this video anytime so you can work on a specific area. So for those who don't know me, I'm Miss Bree, educator, farmer, illustrator, singer, and proud grammar nerd. So welcome to the farm school. So what is a story? Well, stories are like planting seeds, right? Each seed grows into something exciting. Stories begin with a character in a setting. Then something happens that creates a problem. Okay? And then, after the problem, the characters have to go through events to solve the problem. And finally, we reach the solution. So let's talk about characters. Characters are who the story is about. On a farm, characters could be farmers or children or animals. You might have a story about a lost lamb, a clever chicken, or maybe even just a young farmer learning how to plant crops. Characters make the story interesting. Next, we have to figure out where our story is, right? Where and when. So, the setting helps readers imagine where and when the story takes place. So maybe the story happens in a quiet barn at sunrise or in a busy field during harvest time. When authors describe the setting, authors means the writer like you, readers can picture the farm in their minds. So let's talk about the farm problem, right? So stories become exciting when something goes wrong. Perhaps the farmer can't find a chicken's egg, or a lamb wanders away from the flock. The problem makes readers wonder, how will this be solved? So let's talk about it, right? Story events. So remember, we talked about events. That tells us where the beginning is, right? We meet the characters and the setting. In the middle, the characters try to solve the problem. In the end, we discover how the problem is fixed. This order helps the story make sense to everyone reading it. So you always have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Good job. So let's talk about the solution. Well, the solution is the happy moment when the problem is fixed. Sometimes the characters learn something important too. Stories often teach lessons about teamwork, responsibility, and caring for others. Now, strong readers learn new vocabulary words. Farm stories introduce many interesting words that describe agriculture and rural life. The more words we learn, the stronger our reading becomes, like pasture and harvest and tractor and barn and even livestock. You should also try to ask questions while you read. Good readers think while they read. They ask questions about the story to understand it better. This helps you remember important details. And also, a smart reader will make predictions. Predictions help readers stay curious. So when something interesting happens, we can guess what might happen next. Sometimes we're right, and sometimes we're surprised. For example, if a story is about a farmer working hard to grow crops, the main idea might be the importance of patience and hard work. Readers can look for clues to understand the author's message. So let's talk about a sequence, right? Well, first, the farmer plants the seeds. Next, the crops begin to grow. Then, the plants ripen. And finally, it is time for the harvest. Sequencing helps readers explain what happened in a story. Now, what does reading with expression mean? Reading with expression makes stories come alive. A nervous chicken might sound really worried, while an excited farmer might sound cheerful. Expressive reading helps listeners enjoy the story. Now, you can become a storyteller. So imagine a farm animal or a farmer. What challenge will they face? And how will they solve it? So here's your writing prompt, okay? I want you to write a short story about a day when something surprising happened on the farm. So you're going to include characters, a setting, a problem, and a solution. All right, so maybe a pig escapes from the pen, or a kitten discovers a hidden nest of eggs. Use your imagination and build a complete story. If you want to pause the video here while you write, you absolutely can. Now, lastly, we're going to talk about why stories matter. Well, stories are one of the oldest ways people share knowledge. Stories have been around way longer than writing or anything else is people just telling stories as they go. You know how, like, your mom tells you a story, and your grandma tells you a story, and your great grandma would have told your mom and grandma stories, and so on, you know. So, farm stories help us learn about agriculture, animals, nature, even just responsibility. Reading and writing stories helps our brains grow stronger every day. So thank you for coming today. Today we learned how stories grow, just like crops in a field. We explored characters, settings, problems, and solutions. These skills help us become confident readers and creative writers. And remember, every great story starts with a single idea, just like every harvest begins with a seed. Thanks, guys, for coming, and I'll see you in the next video.